everybody, welcome back to Furniture Flipping Teacher. I'm Lauren, and in this video we're going to be tackling this petite dresser. I'm actually really excited about the vision that I have for this piece. It's solid wood. I'm not for sure on the type of wood, but I do know that it's solid wood, no particle board, no MDF. I love when I can pick up pieces like this. I actually picked this up 2 years ago on my birthday, and that is literally about 2 years ago, about right now. So it's about time that I get started on this dresser. I am going to begin by removing all of the hardware. So gonna start by removing the hardware, and I'm gonna set it to the side because I haven't quite decided yet if I am going to be putting these same knobs back on, or if I am going to be trading them out for new hardware. My design could go either way, so I'm just gonna save them and we'll see just in case. You'd think I would learn, and this is me telling you a tip, whenever you have like an older vintage piece that's wood like this especially, I would say 98.5% of the time, they are going to have, the hardware is gonna have screws that are flatheads instead of the Phillips head. And I always fail to remember that until I'm like right here ready to unscrew the hardware. It's not like a big deal or anything, but flathead, you can't use a Phillips head when you need a flathead. So remember that. Also have this beautiful paper inside. It's kind of cool, honestly, but I'm gonna go ahead and get rid of that. Maybe we'll line the drawers with something new, or maybe since they're so clean, we'll just leave them as is. We'll see. This one's orange. I love this one. It's pretty. I think I was using this piece as storage at one point, so I think my printer was sitting on here for a little while, and I forgot to empty it out. This might have been in a nursery prior to this because it says baby boys are special. Who knows, maybe it'll end up back in a nursery someday. This size dresser is like perfect for a nursery. It'd be perfect for a changing table. It's like the exact right height, and then it has all this storage, and it's plenty big for a changing table on the top. Who knows? All right, next up, I am going to go ahead and clean this very, very dirty dresser. Okay, we've got a little bit of simple green and some white rags that I am going to wipe this piece off with. We're gonna spray it pretty well, and it'll probably need a couple rounds because in my shop, the furniture just gets super dusty and dirty because of the sanding dust, the paints overspray, and just all of the things, plus just the natural dust. And so we need to make sure that we start with a nice clean slate. I always like to clean my furniture second after I remove the hardware because I don't want to work with the piece that's all dusty and gross. I know I'm gonna sand it and it's just gonna get dusty again, but at least I know that that's my dust and not dust from a thrift store. And also, I think this piece was around like $35 at the thrift store. So we're working with a pretty good starting price. Sweet. Okay, top is clean. Now we're gonna move on to the body and remove the drawers, make sure the inside is clean, the whole 9 yards. All right, I'm moving and grooving on this project. I think that I took a little bit of time off, like in between, you know, Christmas and New Year's. And so to be back into a project it's just got me pumped and I'm ready. So this piece next is going to get sanded down all the way to raw wood. This has quite a bit of failing finish, so I want to get it all off there so that we can start with a clean slate. And like I said, it is completely solid wood, so I'm good to go. I don't need to worry about burning through any veneer. I'm gonna use my Surf Prep 5-inch orbital sander, and it does have 120 grit sandpaper on there. Since this is a failing finish, I think that should be totally fine. If not, I'll go down to an 80 grit because that is a little bit more coarse and will help me get the finish off pretty quickly. But we're gonna start with the top, see how that goes, and then move on to the body and the drawers. Okay, I got the first layer of all of the finish off all over the dresser and on the drawers here. So that was with 120 grit, and now I'm gonna move on to do a 220 grit sandpaper. So it's gonna be a little bit less coarse, and what we're gonna work on now is kind of smoothing everything out. I am not necessarily looking to get all the dings and dents out of this. I kind of like having that little bit of a rustic feel, but what I really am looking to do here is to smooth it out, but then also there's still like several shades here. Like some of the stain came off really well with the 120, but a lot of the times you need another round of a higher grit like 220 just to even everything out, and it'll get into the wood grain a little bit deeper to get that coloring out and make everything one color. Then also the reason I'm doing 220 grit is because I want to make sure that there are no sanding swirls, and sometimes that can happen with a higher grit of sandpaper like an 80 or a 120, and I don't want any sanding swirls in my finish because those will be able to be seen once I put the finish on. So we're gonna go nice and slow and just smooth everything out with this 220 here. Sanding is complete. We got both rounds of sanding with the 120 and the 220 grit done, and then I also went ahead and wiped back all the dust so that we have a clean, fresh slate to do a paint wash with. So a paint wash is a majority of water with a little bit of paint. So it's basically diluted paint, and you can choose the ratio that you want to do. You can do 50-50, you could do 70-30, whatever you want it to be. It depends on how like diluted you want your paint to be. So I typically don't even measure, but you know, if you want to make sure that you're getting the same formula every time, you could measure for sure. I am going to be using Fusion Mineral Paints Algonquin. This is a beautiful, beautiful color. It's kind of like a beige color, but we're going to apply this paint wash onto the drawers and the body of this piece. I want to keep it the raw wood, but it is a little bit yellowy. And so what I want to do is just tone down that yellow color a bit with this paint wash. That way, once we top coat it, it will not be so yellowy. And I'm hoping this, there we go. Got that open. So I just use a separate container and I will pour in a little bit of water, which I just have water in a jar here. And then I will pour in a little bit of the Algonquin, like so. We'll make sure to mix that up really well. Okay, so once we've got our formula all mixed up in a separate container, I like to use my mister bottle like this, and I just spray the surface that I'm going to be paint washing, and that'll just kind of help it absorb the paint wash a little bit better than it would if it were just like straight up. And then also it won't be quite as dark of a paint wash, just because you are adding like a slip coat. And then once we get it painted on, we'll use some lint-free cloth in order to wipe back any excess. And you can leave it sit on the surface for however long you want. It will start to soak up, and so also that will determine how dark the paint wash gets as well. So I'm gonna gear up for some paint wash, and I can't wait to see the final results. This is looking so good. I'm so excited. The color is absolutely perfect. It's not all put back together, but we're definitely on the right track. And now I'm gonna be working on said hardware. I know that I said in the beginning that I may or may not be replacing the hardware or using this same hardware, but I set it aside just in case. So I'm thinking that I'm gonna use it. But we need to make it so that it looks like the rest of the piece, or else like this orangey color will not look good on the new paint job. So what I'm gonna do is basically the same method that I did on the actual piece. I'm gonna use my orbital sander and attempt to get most, if not all, of the finish off. Obviously, it'll be a little tricky in the groove here, but I can also do a little bit of hand sanding as well. So yeah, that's what we're gonna do now. There's 6 knobs, and then we'll also give them a paint wash, just like we did the rest of the piece. Okay, got all the hardware sanded down, and then it's all paint washed as well. So it's looking really neat, and it looks exactly like the base and drawers of the dresser. Now I'm gonna go ahead and tackle the inside of this dresser, specifically the slides and then the sides, like wherever the drawers touch. I am gonna be using some Big Mama's Butter, which is a furniture salve, and this is just going to help basically allow the drawers to slide super easy. It's gonna kind of lube them up a little bit, and I'm applying this with my natural bristle brush, just like that. I just kind of grab some out and then rub it onto the drawer slides in here, and it'll kind of bring wood back to life as well. So I may also do it like on the edges of the drawers too. But for now, this is where I'm gonna focus on. I'm gonna do it on the middle slide, but then also on the edges, because the wood definitely slides on the edges here too, and sometimes it can get caught up, or you know, the wood dries out quite a bit. So this is just gonna help it really glide nice. So then I'll also take the drawers and apply this on the bottoms into the middle here. Then also on the bottom edges as well. Then it will rejuvenate the sides here of the wood. Looks like I got a little paint drip on the side here, so before I lube this up. And then with the insides, you could totally use the balm as well, but I am actually probably going to redo them with, or line them with like peel and stick. I'll do that after I get it top coated though, so I'll just take those back out later on. Okay, so drawer number 1 is in. Basically, the last step before we put the hardware back on is to top coat this thing. There's a couple different ways you could top coat, but I just super enjoy spraying my top coat because 1, it doesn't take very long, and 2, it's just gonna give the best finish. So I'm gonna be using Dixie Belle's Satin Clear Coat. This is my go-to top coat that I have found. It does not yellow over time. It is very protective, and I love the sheen that it has. A lot of the satins that I've used in the past seem to like be too shiny for me, and this one in particular seems to just have the perfect sheen. So I love going to this when I need a top coat. So although this Fusion Mineral Paint does have a top coat built in, since I diluted it with so much water and it's just a paint wash, I wouldn't trust that it's fully protected. So that's why I'm gonna top coat it. So we're just gonna dump that into my spray container. I'm using my Wagner Flexio 5000 to spray on this top coat, and it'll probably take a couple coats just for full protection, and so that this wood is nice and sealed. Like I said, this top coat will not yellow it any further, and the whole reason that I did the paint wash to begin with was to make sure that it's not yellow anymore. So I'm pretty sure, I want to say this is a maple dresser. I'm still working on my wood species knowledge, but I know it's not pine because I know pine, and although this was like a light yellow wood, I'm pretty sure it was maple. If you know otherwise, let me know down in the comments, but pretty sure it's maple. Top coat is all dry, so I am going to reinstall the original hardware. Pull these drawers out, hopefully. There we go. It's looking so good. So everything is in, and I do want to say the reason why I decided to top coat the piece and then the hardware separately instead of like putting it in and then just top coating everything is because I didn't want the hardware to be permanently on there or leave marks behind if anyone or even me or even I wanted to replace the hardware with something different. If it doesn't sell with this hardware, I may try and, you know, replace it with maybe black knobs or something like that. But I did want to try and see. I feel like it gives it that still kind of rusticy vintage look with the original wood knobs matching versus like new hardware, but of course new hardware is always an option. So I am going to pull this out into the other area of the shop, get it staged up, and show you guys the final results. That's a wrap on this piece. I am not sure. I think I'm gonna leave the drawers on the insides left as they are. Maybe put some furniture balm. I know I said I was maybe gonna put some drawer liner in there. I don't know, I haven't fully decided yet, but this is the final result of the outside of the piece. I love how it turned out. I think that it's super simple and yet super modern as well. The raw wood look is still pretty trendy, but the dark wood look is definitely coming back into style, and people are liking that like warmer tone. So definitely keep that in mind as well. But this raw wood look, I don't think is going away for quite a while because it's such a neutral tone, but yet it still shows that wood grain through the paint wash. So that's exactly the look that I was going for on this piece. Let's talk about the numbers of this piece. So like I said, I got it for $35, and then honestly, I did not spend a ton of money on this flip, and I did that on purpose because I knew that because of the size of it and just the overall shape of it, I think that I won't be able to get like a ton of money for it, but that's okay. Not every single flip is a home run. It might not be a completely desirable piece, like maybe say nightstands or even a furniture set. So I am probably gonna list it only for about $350 to $400. It is solid wood, so I've got that going for me. And like I said, it's trendy, it's modern. So we're in at $35, and then for the cost of sandpaper and the paint for the paint wash and then the top coat, that's really all I spent money on. And so we'll call that all around like $25 in. So that means $60 for the whole entire project. I think that's a pretty good buy-in for as much as I can probably get out of it, $350 to $400. I'm gonna list it on Facebook Marketplace and see how my market takes it, and I'll update you guys once this baby sells. I'm always updating in real time over on Instagram, and here on YouTube you probably have to wait a little bit longer because I don't do as many long form videos with the full profit breakdowns in real time. It's a little bit harder for me to get on here every single day. But Instagram, I'm over there in stories, so follow @FurnitureFlippingTeacher if you are interested in the more real-time updates like that. Anyway, thank you guys so much for watching. I will be back next Thursday, as always, with another furniture flip. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you on the flip side.